to Texas.
Texas, something like that.
Texas? I'd have to look in the chat. But Grant's not here, so just Jay and I. And what we're going to do today is kind of close out 2022, talk about all the crazy things that happened. I think in 2022, a lot happened, and then look forward at 2023. So, Jay, 2022, when you look back, what's bigger? And I'm going to give you three options.
Let's
Okay.
just do it. Let's go.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
What's bigger for you? Oh, I'll give you four options.
Okay.
What's bigger for you? Do Kwon and Terra Luna.
Ooh.
Them boys on the YouTube. What's up, George Pate?
What's up,
Okay,
George?
so what's bigger? George, you can please also message in here. What's bigger? Do Kwon and Terra Luna, the ETH 2.0 or the ETH merge,
Ooh.
SBF and FTX, and the foundation and the creation of Not Crypto Bros. Which one's bigger?
Not crypto buzz, of course.
I think that one's the biggest. All right, now that that's out of the way, out of the other three, which one do you think is going to be the one that's like most talked about? Like in 10 years, when people look back in 2022, out of those other three, which one do you think?
It's going to be SBF number one, then Terra Luna, then what was the third one that you said?
You think both of those take out the ETH merge?
Yeah, because nothing has come of the ETH merge this year. We know that it happened, but what else is there?
George Pate says not crypto bros.
Exactly.
Duh. Bros with a BROZ. I like that a lot. So
Exactly.
okay, so you basically think the scandals will outweigh like the scandals will outweigh the more positive or technical leap within the space?
Yeah, I think that whatever positive results happen as a result of the ETH merge aren't going to happen for at least a couple more months. It won't be realized for at least a couple more months. Tristan says it's the birth of the social wedge platform. Do you know social wedge?
I don't.
No, that's new to me too. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, Tristan, please feel free to add a little bit more in there. Also, the crazy thing about Tristan and George commenting is they have almost the identical same picture. So I thought it was the same person. George says ETH merge is like Brexit. How is it like Brexit? Because it went from like proof of work to proof of stake. Like, speak on that more, because I love to draw similarities between the geopolitical world and the crypto world. And Brian says, GM, gentlemen. Brian, you're saying
Brian?
GM. I thought you were on the Northern Caribbean, aka in the UK, but maybe you're not.
What is that? What we call the UK?
That's what I've referred to it as on Boys in the Bolos, the Northern Caribbean. A lot less sun, a lot less. I don't know. I feel like Brits are really like the opposite of Caribbeans as far as like attitude. You know, like every day is like, it's a lot of negativity. And I take that strictly off of watching like English football now for 20 years and engaging with people about anything that should be optimistic about.
Gotcha. Football is kind of pessimistic. I'm with you on that. Judge says because no one cares.
The social wedge because no one cares. Okay, I see that.
No,
it's a universal salutation.
Yeah,
that's what George. That's what Brian says. He's totally right. You can use GM in any context at any hour of the day. Very, very good. Do you want to clarify Tristan's comment here?
Oh, that was the joke we made about Jay calling the fall of Coinbase stock and the social parameters behind it about 3 months ago. The social wedge platform. I remember us talking about Coinbase stock and stuff. I don't remember the social wedge platform. Tristan has a pretty good memory, man. Tristan, happy to have you on board, buddy. You should be like the historian of the bunch or something.
Exactly. He's the not Crypto Bros historian.
Nice.
Okay, so did you say SBF or Do Kwon? Which one was
SBF, then Do Kwon, then the merge. And actually, if I could throw in a fourth one, I'd say it would be like all the hype around NFTs that we got that was pretty big this year, I think.
That has been huge. I mean, 2020 is where many NFT projects first minted. A lot of them didn't rise to prominence. Excuse me. When did I'm sorry. I think Apes minted in May of 2021, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's 21. And then like CryptoPunks and those guys, those were from even before that, right?
Yeah, CryptoPunks is OG. CryptoPunks is 2017, and CryptoKitties is even before that. And So, okay, so Bored Ape Yacht Club is only like a year and a half old, but it's already multi-billion-dollar kind of brand. And even now, in the doldrums of the crypto winter, it's still a big deal. So I think you're right. I think some of the NFT craze that happened, some of the hype, some of the pump and dump, some of the scams. There's so many scams out there with NFTs. It's actually hard to keep track. I was watching CoffeeZilla. Do you ever watch him on YouTube?
Yeah, that dude is pretty cool.
I don't actually know if he has any like real life friends because of the amount of content that he pumps out. He doesn't have a
Yeah.
team. It's just him.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like Mr. Beast who has like a crew, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, he was talking about the Logan Paul scam with his NFT. Did you hear about this?
I just a little bit, and I think the place that I heard it from was CoffeeZilla. But when I heard him talking about it, I thought like, "Oh, is this real?" I didn't even know Logan Paul was into crypto. Like, what is that?
I didn't know either. And we may have watched the same video, but basically Logan Paul had an NFT that he was going to drop. And I can't even remember the name of the project. If you want to look it up, I can look it up too. But in this project, there was a scam within a scam. Because basically, when you look at all of the big scams, when we talk about the Terra Luna, we have Do Kwon, and you're looking at FTX, you have SBF. They're based on like there was just like one or two people that were probably lying all the time. And we just didn't know it, right? Like there were people that were fraudulent in the sense that they were always moving in the shadows within secrets. And within the Logan Paul NFT fiasco, their dev was this guy, and like CoffeeZilla talks about him at length, who says he went to MIT. He never went to MIT. Says he coded for the CIA, never coded for the CIA. He basically, thank you so much, Tristan, Crypto Zoo. And thank you. Shout out to Kristen, the NFT historian as well. And basically, this guy talked himself into certain rooms and into certain circles, and everyone just like, oh yeah, said he's okay. You know, like Jay, I would like to believe that if I introduced you to a dev, you'd probably say, okay, Jarrett believes him. He's worked with him in the past. I'm gonna believe him, right?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna work with that guy. Maybe he's good, maybe he's okay, but then, or maybe you don't even work with him, but you know about him, and then you recommend that person to Brian. And now you and Brian maybe have never met, but there's some kind of like an understanding. And anyways, I think that that's what happened with this guy. He was able to just lie enough and then get as many degrees of Kevin Bacon away from like people that actually could read through it. And we live in a world where if someone says they go to MIT and they're a coder and they say they work for CIA, you're not going to like fact check them. I don't know. It's weird. Anyways, the dev on CryptoZoo essentially was the one that kind of did the rug and left everyone high and dry. There's a lot more
Ooh.
there, but it was definitely the year of the NFT rug, the NFT scam. And I put out a podcast on More Than Blockchain. Shout that out. Go check that out. Morethanblockchain.xyz back in May. And I said 99% of these things are going to zero. And I got a lot of flack for that. I got a lot of flack from people who I know have NFT projects. And since their NFT projects have essentially just flatlined, um, I think if you created a community out of nothing and you didn't monetize a community you already had, it's so tough to keep hype and keep energies high.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was kind of like my thing on NFTs. But for NFTs, what were things besides the scams, or if you want to talk about the scams too, what were things that you think made it monumental and that in 10 years when we look back, we'll be like, oh, that was 2022. Ooh, Trump
Uh,
NFT. Feel
Trump
free to pick up on
NFT.
that.
Exactly. That was amazing. How much money did they raise? Do you remember? It was what, $100 per NFT?
4.5 million because he sold 45,000 at $100 in one day. So in one day he got 4.5 million from his followers or people that decided to buy the NFT.
Yeah. There were a lot of crazy NFTs, and I think it speaks to one, like the whole like speculation of it, of just people just trying to invest in something that hopefully brings them some income and maybe even makes them rich. But then I think it's also like people looking for something new. Like after all that time of sitting at home during the pandemic, you just wanted something different, right? You wanted to embrace the technology and show that you're on the cutting edge. And so you saw a lot of regular people getting involved, but then you also saw a lot of companies getting involved as well, right? And there were scams from individuals, but there were also scams from companies and some high profile people. Logan Paul, like you said, but there were NBA players, there were rappers who rocked their communities. Miss Universe rocked its community, like
I
a lot.
remember that. That was
Yeah,
those were millions of dollars too.
Yeah, Steve Harvey was in the commercials and stuff, and then they just sort of disappeared. Uh, there was a lot of crazy stuff that happened. Some people got hurt, probably a lot of people got hurt. But I think in the end, as a community, we're probably stronger for it. It's similar to like what happened during the ICO boom and bust, where afterwards we all sort of learned the lesson, like, yeah, we're not messing with the feds anymore. We're gonna we're not doing that again. So same
the
thing here, I think.
Yeah, thinking about it, comparing it to the ICO bust, because the ICOs bloom early 2017. They go into the top of the 2017. By 2018, everything cools. In 2019, everything's back to kind of a zombie. And that's where I do think 2023 is going to be I've been calling it a zombie year. The funny thing about, if your project didn't rug, if it didn't cease to exist overnight, then I know that the market cap's gone up to about 3.5 trillion, and now it's down to about 800 billion. So we're about 75% down on the overall market cap in crypto.
Hmm.
Now, some of those projects are going to be tied to Ethereum that's lost, or Bitcoin that's lost, or other coins that literally cease to exist, like Terra Luna or FTT.
Oh yeah.
But there's still a lot of people out there that haven't sold and that are still holding on. And I think, at least with this group of people that came into crypto, and then I want to get to Brian's comment. The
Hmm.
story in my head, and I feel like I've seen some on-chain data from Wu, who talked about this, is basically like more people came in this year knowing that this thing is crazy, that this is volatile, and that, yeah, you're going to make a lot of money, but you're also going to lose a lot of money in the short term. But in the long term, if you hold on and you choose a good project, and you're not just gambling and being sucked into something that, I lost money this year, big time in Wonderland. First one to talk about it. Yeah, lost money. But as long as you're not in a project that's going to implode and go away, and you can hold on to your coins, and you've bought something that has utility, and you're hopefully looking at something that has a finite amount of coins or tokens, I think, by 2025, 2026, you should be in a better position. Brian says exploits on DeFi, smart contracts, and bridges, 100%. How many were over 100 million? Half a dozen. I was in on Wonderland. And the funny story, Brian, is that is actually how Not Crypto Bros happened in many ways, because I was on YouTube,
Yes.
and I saw a video. Well, first of all, let me back up. This is something you should never do. Also, if you never want to listen to me again, that's fine. But I was on TikTok and I watched a video and I was like, oh, that looks kind of fun. I'll put $50 in it, whatever. And it was about Wonderland. And then I went on YouTube to find out more information. And I ran into this guy who was super excited, loves Wonderland, just loving life, Mr. Gratitude. And he was talking about Wonderland. I'm like, who's this? Who's this joker? So I have him on More Than Blockchain. He came on episode 12, and he also just came on episode 54. We talked about 2023 and maybe how to invest. And that was Grant. Then Jay and I started talking, and I have to look back at the chat exactly. But anyways, this all came together because of Wonderland. But I lost a lot of money in Wonderland. I put in more money. And that was a huge lesson. And I am going to stay away from anything that has a greater return than probably 5% in DeFi. I'm not going to ever put my money into it. I put my money into BlockFi because that had 9% of my stable coins. That money is now all in a bankruptcy. Put my
Mhm.
money into Wonderland because that had ridiculous APY. That money's all gone. So if it doesn't have less than 5% and it's not basically off Binance or Coinbase, I don't touch it anymore, because I just don't think that's just a Ponzi scheme. It just needs more people to kind of pump it, and I just don't really want to be a part of it. So Brian's totally right. The DeFi and NFTs, Jay, I think you're totally right, will
Mhm.
probably be remembered. You'll have the two scams, the Do Kwon and the SBF.
Yeah.
Technically, I think what the ETH merge did, there should be like a documentary about it, because I think the amount like that they had to do to like move that is incredible. And to do it seamlessly and in real time. If anyone's ever dealt with a CRM or a database, they did that, but on like a level that I still can't understand. So I think those things. But what else? Anything else that happened
Yeah.
in
All of the
2022?
hacks, right? Axie
All of the
Infinity.
hacks. Yes. Yeah.
And that was a bridge as well. It was like a bridge hack. And then there were a few more of those bridge hacks as well. Actually, that reminds me of something that you and Grant were talking about in your last episode. What did you say? Episode 53? Northern
Episode
blockchain.
54 on More Than Blockchain.
More than
Grant and I
blockchain.
talk about, because Grant is the foremost guy on crypto, real estate, and stocks. I don't know anyone
Mhm.
better that knows all three. So
Yeah, and see, he was talking about bridging. He said he uses a lot of bridges, and that
yeah.
reminds me of the Axie Infinity hack, because that was a bridge hack I forget what chain they were bridging to, um, the Axie Infinity token, but they basically hacked the bridge and got access to everybody's tokens. But so there was a lot of that stuff that was happening.
I remember that. I think that was like 600 million US, roughly in that ballpark. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot of money. And actually, I tagged you guys on something as we talk about things that have happened kind of in 2022. One of the narratives that I'd like to eventually dive deeper in, we could do it on Not Crypto Bros. That'd be really great. Is looking at Solana, because Solana I almost bought in 2021 for $6. I looked at it. I was like, this is kind of an interesting thing. The devs were talking about some cool stuff. The community seemed right. It then went to 230 and I didn't put any money in. So that felt silly. But Solana has since, it feels like a project that's dying. I know that it was tied into the SBF and FTX debacle because it
Hmm.
was one of the ones that he basically pumped. And they owned like, I think 10 to 15% of Solana or something. Like they had a lot. So when they were doing well, like Solana, whatever, Solana went all the way up to 252 and has since dropped. Today is trading at $11. So that's 95% down. And I think it has a long way to go. I think it will go past the $6. I also bought it since it has had a lot of network outages. It is just like fallen apart. And then the thing that I tagged you, if you guys are anyone's on LinkedIn, find me. I posted this, and this was from CoinDesk, and I tagged you and Grant, especially because I feel like we always talk about Solana because I think it is a really interesting project. I mean, there's something as you said about the community when the thing fails all the time, but people are still like trying to build on it.
Hmm.
What was the article I sent with you today? It wasn't even an article; it's just something I saw CoinDesk, and I'm sure if you search, you could find more information. But it basically said two of Solana's top NFT projects, DGods and Utes, are migrating. DGods is going to go to Ethereum, and what's it called? Utes is going to go to Polygon. And so I don't know of another time. Like, I don't know if here's a question for the audience or anyone who wants to just put this into Google or ChatGPT. Actually, ChatGPT wouldn't answer it because it's only up to 2021. But is there a case we've seen in the past where an Ethereum based NFT project or community has migrated to Cardano, excuse me, or Solana or any of the other smart contract platforms? I don't think there is.
No, and like, why even would you move away from Ethereum? If you're on Ethereum, let's assume that it's a project that's doing well and it's sold out. There's no reason to move.
I agree. I think there's zero reason to move. But it's also like when people are, because I think one of the narratives in 2021 and 2022 was that there was going to be an ETH killer, right? Solana was hanging around, Cardano was hanging around, even Polkadot for a while was kind of hanging around, but more so
Mhm.
Solana and Cardano. People are like, oh, these are going to be the ETH killers, and Hoskins was just waiting for ETH 2.0 and the merge from proof of work to proof of stake to kind of flub and then be like, all right, we're ready to go. When that doesn't happen, I think this whole ETH killer conversation for me, I think it's going to be left in 2022. And I think by the time the next bull run comes, I don't even consider Ethereum an altcoin anymore. And in 2017 and 2018, 2019, I did. It was Bitcoin and all the other altcoins. But now it's like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then all the other altcoins. How am I say, does that resonate? And anyone listening, does that resonate with you? Or do you still put Ethereum in the altcoin realm?
It makes sense to me. It's Bitcoin, Ethereum, then the other two. What's Brian saying? In
Oh,
terms
here
of
we go.
ETH killers, Avalanche is superior to Solana.
I forgot about Avalanche, and I should, and I think Tristan agrees with that. I
Tristan is
forgot about
agreeing, yeah.
Avalanche. In terms of ETH killers, yeah, Avalanche is superior to Solana. Avalanche is one that I'm really, it's on my list of buys in 2023. I think I've used it a couple times to bridge. I played around with it. It's very, very easy, super low fees, very, very quick. I'm not sure about the security because when you have low fees and it's quick, it's really hard to get security really high. But yeah, have you played around with the Avalanche?
No, no, no. I haven't played around with it at all. I probably bought some Avalanche back in the day, but that was it. Is that whole ETH killer narrative still going around? Like, I know that was super popular early on with these coins, but as more and more people have come in, is that something that we still think about and talk about?
I don't think about it, but I'd love to hear from like Tristan, Brian, and other people that are in the chat because I don't think about it anymore, or from George or Victor if he's going to hop in. But maybe people do. I think that like Grant, if he were here, he'd probably argue that maybe Cardano has some things to offer that it doesn't, and I'm sure he'd have some really good points. Um, Here, Tristan says Avalanche did a ton of cool VC/startup work with projects all over Silicon Valley to increase chain awareness in Q3 and Q4 this year as well. Yeah,
Oh,
I
cool.
think I think Avalanche is not going anywhere, but time will tell. Whoever, if you can make it through any coin that makes it through 2023, and this is kind of financial guidance, not financial advice. Any coin that makes it through 2023 that's in the top 50 this time next year, you should just put whatever you can put into equally across. Put $1 into each of them and just see what happens because they're all going to have tremendous 2024s and 2025s as we get into the halving season. That's kind of my take.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'll add something on top of what you just said. So like, and we've been saying this for a while, any coin, any project that makes it through 2023 is probably going to have pretty decent runway going forward. But I'll also say they have to come through the year having set up and establish a whole bunch of partnerships. Like it's fine if you do nothing during 2023 in terms of like putting out new products, but we at least need to know that you've got stuff lined up for 2024. And so if you're having these conversations and you got a partnership with with actual bricks and mortar companies or new other crypto companies that are coming up, or you're partnering with communities or like Polygon that stole away youth somehow, if you've got that kind of traction going, then I think it looks pretty good for you in 2024.
Yeah, I think that that's the exact way to look for it. You don't have to be essentially you don't have to see price appreciation to see project appreciation as far as market sentiment, which is, I know is kind of weird, but um, Brian says the narrative is that there will be enough demand and utility for more than one or two layer one smart contract platforms to thrive. I think you're 110% right. I think Ethereum, as it becomes more expensive and not just to actually buy one Ethereum, but also to actually transact, I think Ethereum will kind of turn into the more institutional grade, whereas the retail will probably sit with another project, Cardano, Avalanche, or some project that maybe is going to start up in 2023 because they're going to get, $300 million off,
Yeah.
put 4 or 5 people together and take their winnings and invest and build something up, and really build kind of like Hoskinson did and build off the, learn from the mistakes that have been made and kind of move forward. I don't think any new project, I got to fix my shoe. I don't think any new project is ever going to come out in proof of work. That's kind of something I'll say. Jay, what do you think about that? I just think of the environmental concerns are so strong that in the United States, like no Fortune 500 company is going to touch anything because of environmental concerns other
Wow.
than maybe Bitcoin.
Is that you think so?
Yes, I do.
Bitcoin is a good example, but I feel like there's a significant portion of the population who is like anti-climate. Like, wow, we don't care. Like, we're just gonna go with it because it's gas guzzling, because it harkens back to the old times kind of deal. I don't know if that means that all of the companies are gonna go in that direction, but I think there'll be some people who are like, yeah, I'm not for proof of stake because of the fact that it's so green and friendly.
You think so?
Some people, at
My
least, it might not be the majority, but I think it'll be significant.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I mean, there's enough. I made this joke the other day on Twitter, but I was like, Siri, show me a Venn diagram between Bitcoin maxis and what was the other one? I forget exactly, but there are a lot of people that are Bitcoin maxis that don't believe anything the government says. Even if
Hmm.
the government tells them something they know to be true because the government says that they won't do it. And because a lot of the regulation, especially in the United States, and I would say in Europe, is really top down as far as the climate is concerned. I do think that's going to continue to be something. But the thing for me is like I'm hyper sensitive and worried about the climate, personally and professionally. It's something I'm kind of invested in. And then at the same time, though, for me, the issue with proof of stake is the security long term. Proof of work and the entire global network of computers is really what keeps the blockchain secure. Um, and so we're going to see how long term that plays out. You know, we kind of have like a tortoise and the hare situation with ETH and Bitcoin, and I think it's going to be kind of interesting. Tristan says, on that flip side, though, maybe you see Shell or what's that?
I don't know.
I can't. Oh. Maybe you see Shell or Schlumberger Seed fund a proof of work concept to keep their market afloat in the transition to electric vehicle generation. I think that is totally possible. I'm pretty sure, and someone could fact check this, but pretty sure I saw that Exxon is starting to take some of their, some of their burn off essentially and put it towards Bitcoin mining because they're like, oh, we have all this energy, we need to put it somewhere. Let's not use it.
Really? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'd have to look into that. But I mean, the big oil realizes that exactly what Tristan's saying. As they make this $100 trillion in global asset shift from fossil fuels to electric, there's going to be moments where they're not going to be the most efficient. And so Bitcoin offers them the ability to kind of be able to put that energy towards something where it can still have some type of ROI. Even in a down market, it's better to make something than nothing. So I'm really interested. I do think the climate is going to be a continued conversation when we talk about if something should be proof of stake or proof of work, or whether a company should be investing in it. And I know with Mercy Corps, I'm very obviously pro Bitcoin. I think it's good for humanity long term. I know right now it's using more energy than it should, but I don't think we've ever had a sector ever in human history like Bitcoin where there's such an incentive driven by profit to adopt renewable and greener sources of energy that drive down the cost to produce. There's really no other sector. And, Elon came out in March of 2021, and this is where it went up to the top, and then it kind of tanked because he said, oh, yeah, Tesla's no longer going to accept Bitcoin. He accepted it for like 6 weeks. And then he said he couldn't do it because of the ESG concerns. And that goes back to the environment. So I do think it's very something that's top of mind for companies as they all jockey in the public sector to kind of have their good ESG and their CSR and kind of look like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or whatever. But I do think individuals are very much like whatever. They're just going to probably go after the profit.
You made me think of something. Do you remember this from like a week or two ago where the governor of Florida pulled their balance from, is it BlackRock? Who was it? It was BlackRock, right?
Might have been.
It might have been, but they pull it from a major investment bank. I think $2 billion. Pull it from a major investment bank because of those ESG concerns. And he's basically like, yeah, all of these investment banks focusing on ESG is causing us to lose money. If we were invested in oil, we would have doubled our money this year. But because everybody's focusing on ESG, we took a hit. And he's like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore.
Wow. I had not heard that. And that looks like it was DeSantis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It says
Governor
Florida will pull
DeSantis in
$2
Florida.
billion.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. It says Florida will pull, and now it's Bloomberg going to make me sign up. Florida will pull $2 billion worth of state assets managed by BlackRock, accelerating Republicans' fight with the world's largest money over its ESG investing practices.
And it's not just Florida. There were a few other conservative-leaning states that did the same thing. Florida was just the biggest one.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Vast majority of Republicans argue about climate change. Vast majority of Republicans don't like the social aspect of ESG. And vast majority of Republicans don't like the G or the governance. They want more of a dictatorship rather than anything that looks like a democracy. So that's not surprising. And I do think, like you said, I think it's actually going to continue. That, I'm more of a liberal leaning person. So I wouldn't have considered that there were people out there who are like, no, because proof of stake is maybe going because, maybe Ethereum did that because of the environmental concerns. We should go proof of work or something like that. So I think you're totally right. And you know, Republicans are a very, very powerful community on the globe, whether people want to believe that or not, because they, have essentially half the voting bloc in the United States. So, it does that influence the way you look at crypto as far as like its environmental impact?
No, I that's not something that I think about at all. But then I didn't have sort of the indoctrination, I guess, that would make me think about the environment in that way. Like I know, they were like, especially in North America, there were all of these like Greenpeace initiatives and matches and all of this stuff. Like it was definitely something that came up that you would have been introduced to culturally as being
Hmm.
something that you need to do, and that's just not the culture that I grew up in. So it's not something that I put a lot of thought into. But I like this statement from Tristan, and I might be switching the topic a little bit, but he's talking about magnets and using magnets to generate power, and it made me think of, like we talk about crypto a lot, but there's like a lot of like crypto adjacent stuff that happened this year as well. So like I'm thinking of all of the stuff around AI and Chat GPT. We talked about that last week. You had a pretty cool post about trying to get Chat GPT to give you a quote from Donald Trump versus one from Barack Obama, and it refused to do the Donald Trump. But then there's like all that cool stuff. Like I don't know if you heard recently, there were the scientists who had this breakthrough in fission power.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw
So
that.
and like there's some other pretty cool people like the project that Tristan and his group are working on in terms of li-fi. There's all these like Web3 adjacent technologies that are taking off. Is there anyone that stands out to you?
Wait, just for clarification, is Tristan working with Roger?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tristan is
Maybe.
their marketing
Oh my
marketing
God.
guru.
Okay. So that's because I keep seeing Tristan. I'm like, okay, yes, we were on a call super briefly talking about that. And I do think like I think Li-Fi will play a part in residential homes within the next 5 to 6 years. I think there's like a couple. I think it will, and I think Roger would disagree with me. But I do think it's going to be a mix of both in Wi-Fi and Li-Fi to get your optimum kind of service. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm also, I still have a lot to learn with Li-Fi, and if anyone's watching, please check out, Roger Williams and Tristan, because what they're doing with Li-Fi is a big deal. I
Yeah,
actually wonder
George
with
likes it too.
Li-Fi, what's up?
George likes it too. He
George likes it too. Yeah, I
he's
think it'll be
deep on
commercial
them.
use in the next 1 to 5 years. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, 1 to 5 years, and then maybe residential will come a little bit after that.
Okay.
Residential and retail normally lag behind industrial and commercial use. I am thinking, however, that crypto, as you said, there's many things that are tied to it, and AI is one of those. And like, I'm going to continue to focus on blockchain and NFTs and crypto. This is where I am personally, professionally. This is where I am financially. But I will say AI is cool. And I was messing around with Chat GPT yesterday, and I just put out a new podcast that I created from Chat GPT, essentially on More Than Blockchain. Um, Bitcoin and energy, Brian says it's the opposite of what you think. And I'm going to look at this, Brian, eagerly because um, oh yeah, this is Jordan Peterson. So I can't seem to open this for some reason, but there's been a lot of really cool conversations, and I think this is probably one of those conversations. And Jordan Peterson talks about it. Yeah, he talks about it with Saifedean, and so this is one of those conversations where they were talking, and I'm pretty sure this is the one where they were talking about how, for the first time ever, you can kind of export energy anywhere, and the idea of this is that there are some places where there is oil or energy to be found in the planet, but in order to build the pipelines or get the ships to get out there, to fill up the oil and bring it back, it almost becomes not worth it. You're going to spend so much in the transportation of that, it's not worth the production of, if that makes sense. And they talk about how, well, the second you can do this and you can just mine Bitcoin with the energy, well, you can send that Bitcoin anywhere. So essentially, you can kind of use energy anywhere on the planet to create ROI, which is a way that we've never really thought about oil
Oh,
production
that's
before.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and I believe pretty sure it's part of this conversation. And for anybody interested in another podcast, What Bitcoin Did with Peter McCormick is a great podcast. I listen to that every once in a while just because he has some very interesting guests that talk about the ways that people are using Bitcoin around the world. So George Pate has a question of the year, and I haven't read it fully, but I'm going to read it now. It says, the big question of the year, who be mining though?
Who's doing the mining? That is a good question because China did ban mining, right? We heard that Japan is about to about face on stable coins, but China 100% banned mining. So all of those big Chinese miners, they left. Some went to Russia, some went to California, some, no, I'm sorry, some went to Texas. So it's kind. I don't know who's doing the most mining anymore. Do you have any idea of what's happening on that side?
I really don't. I know a lot of it's moved to Texas, and I know that with the freeze we've had, and we're still kind of like in a storm in North America. Texas has said, "Hey, let's turn off the mining for a second, because they wanted to make sure that basically residents and industry had power." I'm not really sure, so if anyone has information, you should be doing the mining. You know what, George? I've looked into that, and I was mining Ethereum for a year and a half, and that went really well. But as far as Bitcoin mining, I've actually been considering taking some money and going up to Vermont where the energy is cheaper, and it's also cold there throughout the year. So like you don't have to worry about the things overheating. I don't know how they're mining in Texas because we had 8 little rigs, 8 little cards, memory cards set up, which is nothing compared to these massive ones, which have thousands or hundreds, and that thing created so much heat. So I don't know. So half the mining energy, I swear, was just trying to keep the rigs from not overheating and burning out. So I don't know how they're doing it in Texas. Like, I don't know if they've dug down like 20 feet into the earth so it's cooler, but I don't know how they're doing that. Texas does have extremely cheap energy. They have
Yeah.
energy down there for 6 cents a kilowatt. Up here in Massachusetts, where I am, it's 22 cents, to give you an idea.
Brian is saying it's
Um,
all going to be about renewable energy resources coming up. Again, I'm guessing that's referring to the mining costs, so hydro, solar. But then there's some other cool applications too, right? So geothermal, hydrogen is the one that we're using for cars. That may not be very popular for cars, but maybe we might be able to use it for crypto. Nuclear. Not a lot of people building new nuclear power stations and stuff, but can you imagine if there's like a crypto miner who's like, you know what? I'm just gonna build my own station, my own power station, Screw everybody off the grid.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking if I take, any of this and basically make a business plan and get some investors. But I think if you are a Bitcoin maxi, let's just look at Bitcoin because I think it's like the easiest thing to wrap your head around. And it's one of the only proof of works that you'd probably want to mine that's quasi profitable. Right now, it's not profitable to mine Bitcoin. So you're going to be picking up coins and paying more than what they're worth. It's right on the cusp. I think at like 16.5, 16, it starts to get crazy with the cost of electricity. George, I'm going to get to your comment here, but basically, I'm kind of running through, could I get $1 million to create a mining set up somewhere in Vermont and have some solar power going, see if there's a way to create some geothermal, et cetera, but do it in a way that's going to be, take into account the local environment. But I don't know. Anyways, I'm very interested in that. If anyone wants to talk further, George, why don't you go ahead and reach out, DM me on LinkedIn, please. I think we're connected because George said, I'd love to do a talk more on mining. I have a pretty cool webinar about building out sustainable and profitable data centers. I have contractors at Rockdale and Comanche at the Texas mines. And he says that's literally how it happens, Jay. I just got back from Thailand and saw a solar methane digester crypto mine that is completely off grid. George, reach out to me, please.
Nice.
I want to highlight this on More Than Blockchain. And I also think that in the new year, Not Crypto Bros, we're going to bring guests back on more often. So this would be also cool too. Brian
Solar
says
and methane. Where does methane come from? Methane is
cows.
cows, right? Oh, that's cool. That
Cows.
is
So
cool. I like that.
if you have a lot of cattle, yeah, you could be
Yeah.
capturing some of that. The point is that you can decentralize energy production and monetize it via Bitcoin mining at source, totally off grid. Exactly, Brian. Like I heard Saifedean explain that, and Jordan Peterson was like, "Wait, what?" I think it was hard for him to understand because for so long, the way that we create energy in the world is like you have to be around it, and this Bitcoin totally just changes. It flips the narrative. And I think that that's just like so crazy. So Jay, I think you're spot on that. Like there's all these other things. There's machine learning, there's AI, there's advances in renewable energy. They all play around crypto and they play around blockchain. And I think they're all going to kind of like fit in really nicely. Have you had a chance to Oh yeah. Also, the Siberian tundra as it thaws if you have Russian relatives. Exactly.
Yes.
Nice. Um, Jay, have you had a chance to play around with Chat GPT?
No, I haven't. I see everyone doing it. I'm like, I feel left out. I wanna get involved.
Because I had signed up, and you can go to OpenAI, I think .io, and you can just sign up. They just are going to verify, I think, with a phone number and an email, and that's it. And you can just start playing around. But one of the things that I had signed up originally because I wanted to get their DALL-E, the DALL
Yeah.
dash E. I wanted
Mhm.
to get that to make like AI generated art, and I'm still on that waiting list, and I haven't heard anything. But uh, OpenAI is crazy, and there's a lot of good information out there. I think right now it's for them to do each query, it's like very, very expensive. So I don't think ChatGPT, like out as it is now, free to the public, where you can just go play around with it. I don't think it's going to be available in 3 months. I just think it's costing them too
Do
much money, is what I've heard.
do you think they're gonna tokenize it? I feel like a lot of that kind of software, like
Mm,
ChatGPT and the original GPT, GPT-3, these are like what would've 10 years ago been open source pieces of software like JavaScript and the others. But the problem with open source software is that no one is paying for the upkeep. Lots of the people who provide the maintenance are for the most part volunteers. And so that's why
mm.
you continue to have these flaws in these open source pieces of software that end up affecting the entire world. But if you have a software like GPT-3, if you go ahead and tokenize it and sell ownership to other people, now you've got income that's coming in, and you can pay developers to make sure that it remains a top of the line product. So do you think tokenization is something that eventually infiltrates open source?
Yeah, you know what? I first want to say shout out to Victor, happy
Victor, what's up,
holidays.
Victor?
Victor, Feliz Navidad. I think 100%. And BlackRock president, CEO, I forget the BlackRock guy. I should know his name. That sounds silly of me to say the BlackRock guy, because he's like in charge of $10 trillion or something. He recently came out and was like, "Look, tokenization is the future,"
Yeah,
and that kind of made its way around the Twitter sphere and LinkedIn and other places. So I do think tokenization is going to play a huge role in the next 10 years around communities. It's the new GoFundMe. It's the new, if you believe in something, do it.
yeah.
Like we've all used Wikipedia. If you were listening to this, you probably use Wikipedia once or twice. But
Hmm.
when Wikipedia has that thing up and it's like, hey, give me $1, I've
Yeah,
never paid.
never.
But if it said buy an NFT for $100, I might be like, you know what, let's do it.
Larry Fink,
It's
that's him. Yeah.
it's just, yeah, the Larry Fink. So, Jay, I totally believe. So, break me down. How would you tokenize ChatGPT to make it more of a sustainable project rather than one that's maybe, as you're saying, like other projects is kind of run more on volunteer basis, and you know, working with volunteers is great, but most things that are volunteer driven, somebody in the supply chain, in the value chain, there is getting paid.
Yeah.
As someone who's worked in international development forever and everyone's volunteers, there's people making money. So it's hard for something free to last forever.
Yeah, and so like this is like big picture, and so I'm thinking, I think maybe outside of what Chat GPT is right now. But if you could
Mhm.
imagine that Chat GPT had a token, and that token allowed for you to use the service, like you buy one token, you get, I don't know, one result back or something like that,
Mm.
and there's like a whole there's software built up around it so that if you were a company you could license the software, but you still had to end up using the token. Like your users needed to buy the token in order to use it. They could buy the token from wherever they want. But if you're constantly selling that token as the chat GPT developers to get, that allows for people to use the engine, then you're getting money that's coming in. Hopefully, it's at a low enough rate where it's advantageous to companies and individuals. But now you're actually getting paid for the service that you're providing, and you can afford to hire developers and have a core team that's consistently updating this thing as you go along, and without it necessarily needing to be like for profit. You need it to be like a massive company. It'll be cool if that's what Ethereum did. The Ethereum Foundation, I don't actually know how they pay themselves.
I'm sure that they pay themselves. I mean, they make millions monthly, if not daily, with just fees from the network. So they just turn that ETH into whatever they need to pay their bills or whatever.
That's a cool idea
Well,
that's coming out of the chat.
yeah. So I want to get to George's idea in a second, but I want to talk. I think Victor's saying 100%, 100%, 100%. Other platforms do it that way. Victor also says, "What's wrong with free for the people?" Um, Victor, I love that, but I
Yeah.
just don't think when you get to the bottom of anything, anything's free for the people. There are very few things on the internet that are free and that are sustained free. So it's kind of like, but maybe Wikipedia is an example, but there's somebody in Wikipedia that's getting paid, is my point. To keep Wikipedia up is just really difficult. Um, but Jay, for your ChatGPT token, how much would you pay as an individual to query to ask a question on ChatGPT? Like, what's your low threshold right now? Is it a
I,
cent? Is it 5 cents?
I think it would have to be something like a cent, and over time, it'll have to go down into like micro payments, like micro cents, right? Just because it'll be happening so quickly.
That's interesting. Because I'm okay. So would the tokens be like, I have a couple questions here. Would the tokens be like a limited amount, or would there be an unlimited supply, kind of like stable coins, where it's
Yeah.
just going to be a stable amount? Let me just interject. I think it has to be a stable amount for it to
Oh,
actually thrive.
you mean it has to be a fixed amount? Is that what you mean?
No, I
No.
think it has to be, sorry, I shouldn't say stable amount. I think it has to be a stable price with an
Okay.
unlimited amount, similar to the way
Yes.
stable coins work.
Yes.
I don't think it's a thing where you can say there's a million of them, because then BlackRock's going to buy 950,000 of them, and say, now we are the only ones that can access ChatGPT. And I think the idea of ChatGPT, or what OpenAI is doing, is sharing the most information and giving people the most tools to access AI possible. So I think that'd be antithetical. So I think it would be something where it's like you said, a cent, and then eventually maybe gets driven down to 1/10 of a cent. But where you would, it's kind of like you'd load up a calling card. You would have your wallet and you would essentially just buy a bunch of tokens. I buy 100 tokens so I can ask 100 queries, something like that.
Hmm. Like to answer that question about what Victor was saying, like what's wrong with free? I mean, free is great. Like like it's great if you can get access to some service and you don't have to pay for it. The thing about free is that if no one is paying for it, then it may not be maintained at the level and the quality that it should be. Like the example I use is the log4j vulnerability that happened. I think it's last year, but log4j is like this JavaScript thing that the entire world woke up to and found out that there was this huge vulnerability that basically allowed for anyone to hack into your systems and then just like do whatever they want. It affected, I don't want to exaggerate, but like over 60% of computers on the internet. And so
I remember this. It was
it was it
insane.
was it was really bad. And this is what happens when you don't have a ton of uh, you don't have people who are being paid to make sure that things are maintained and built correctly.
That's a very good example, and I will need to dive deeper into that. So if you have any links, send it over. I remember when it happened, but it seemed like insignificant. But I do remember that affected so many parts of our digital world. Brian says the
But
banks seem quite happy with Linux,
but
and
Brian is right. Like they definitely
I
like
think
the
that's a
fact that
super
it's
good
free.
example. That's
they,
very nice.
they like the
Victor,
fact that it's free.
yeah, Victor pounds him up, and then Victor says Brave browser pays me to use it. So
That's
exactly, I
true.
do think the future is getting paid to use things.
Hmm.
Um, but we'll see. I don't know. A lot of the tokenomics of the play to earn that I've seen, NFT and DeFi situations or games or whatever, it never really works out.
Yeah.
So long term, I'm interested to see what happens.
Play to earn is a scam, dude. Play to earn is scam. Not that the games are scams, but the concept of it. It's very much a pyramid scheme where the money just comes from the new people who are coming in, right? They're not necessarily creating any unique value for which they can then inject into the game. All of the value comes from new people who come in and buy existing tokens or repurchase from somebody who's already there.
Right. That's where, Axie Infinity's kind of, God, let me look at their prices. If you want to shout out there's some good comments there. What did Tristan say there?
Tristan says similar things are possible now with Google docking. I don't know now too, and that's on the opposite side. What's dorking? I don't know what this is. Do you know what this
Yeah,
is?
Tristan, feel free to explain that a little bit further. Um, Victor Rivera, yes, mate, great to see you. Yeah, I think in crypto though, or in blockchain or in AI with these things that actually need like energy to like keep them sustained, I think it's really, really difficult long term to keep them free. Um, but I'm also open to being exceedingly wrong, and it'd be great if there were free stuff. So Axie Infinity was once at 158 and now is down to $6. So that's more than 95% in the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously that's how most altcoins are. We just talked about Solana and everything else, but I really think that, some of these games are just not going to be around, but we'll see. Uh, Tristan says remote access through Google to hundreds of millions of webcams across the world. Dorking, just coming to light over the past couple weeks. Ooh, Tristan, you want to share how it came to light, why it came to light, and who brought it to light?
It
Um,
reminds me of I went to Israel a couple of years ago on this like
mm,
mission to Israel, like this cybersecurity mission. One of the
mhm,
things that they showed us was that there's so many like you buy a router, like you buy an internet router. So many people
mhm.
buy these things and don't change the default passwords, and there are bots online whose job is to just ping routers to see if they still have their default passwords. And then there are websites that are dedicated to showing you this information. And so you can go in and just basically pick a location and find all of the routers that still have their default information. So schools, hospitals, people's homes, that you can get into the router, you can access all of their internet information, you can cut them off of the internet if you want, you can grab all of their passwords and all of that stuff that they're using. George, George is loving the conversation.
George says, Jay, you're talking to my heart. Yeah. I remember years ago, I was living in Guatemala and this is in 2015, which seems like forever ago. And we would go into anywhere and no one ever changed their passwords. They
Hmm.
would just keep the password. And so once you picked up on, you're like, all right, it's Verizon. I'm going to use US telcos, but you're like, actually, the telcos there are Tigo and Claro. And so they're like, so Tigo or Claro? Okay, it's Tigo. So we know the first six are this, and then we have to play with two or three numbers until we hit.
What?
And you could do that anywhere because no one changed. Uh,
Yeah.
in certain places, there was just like very low, and this is 2015 too. So just as it is now in many parts of the world, honestly, including like the United States, people just don't change their routers. The only thing they change is the network name, and they think that that makes it a unique thing. The password here at the house I'm at here is deep on Wi-Fi because we're highly aware we want to keep our network safe. It's not easy. Even I mess up putting it in because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that is definitely something to keep in mind. Um, 2023, Jay, it is upon us. What are the things you're most excited for in crypto or just in general?
Hmm. Excited for. I mean, I'm kind of excited for things to quiet down. The last
Man, you
three
sound like a
months.
boomer.
It's
It's been
not
too
like that.
busy, yo.
Like think of all of the terrible things that have happened. So
Okay. Okay.
Celsius, 3 Arrows, um Terra Luna. There was somebody else. Who else was it besides 3 Arrows? Someone else crashed. Celsius. Anyway, I'm forgetting them. And then FTX and SBF now. There's all
Hmm.
of that turmoil that was happening at the end of 2022. I kind of just want it to be quiet for a little while, for people to just build silently, nobody else to go to jail. Like it would be great if if
Nobody
people
else
stop
go to
calling out
jail.
SBF. I've started feeling bad for him. Like you see them talking about him on the news, and reporters are saying like, yeah, he had, how much did he have? He had like $16 billion last month. Now he's moved back in with his parents. Like, come on, that's not necessary to say. Like, leave the guy alone, yo.
Yeah, Jay,
Voyager, that's what it is. Voyager, good call, Brian. It's Voyager. That's
Voyager, Three Arrows Capital, BlockFi, a lot have gone up in smoke. Um, I agree, and I just dropped the link in there if anyone's seeing that on LinkedIn. That's to my latest Spotify where I use ChatGPT to help me talk about New Year's resolutions. And before I did that episode, I was actually going to talk about the crazy things that happened in crypto in 2022, but I decided not to. And I was like, no, it's super triggering. A lot of people's portfolios are down 90 to 95%, if not more, depending upon when they got in. And it seems like it's a rough time to talk about crypto, but I think it's finding these ancillary conversations like the ones we found today about ESG, CSR, different ways of Bitcoin mining, some of the AI stuff, looking at maybe the bad things that happen in NFTs, the good things that could happen. Is there still going to be the ETH killer conversation? I think there's still a lot of good conversations to be had. And from what I've seen, there's still a lot of movement. A lot of people are building in the top 50 projects. There's stuff happening. There's news every day. If you're just like keeping a close eye. And so 2023, you're looking for things to hopefully cool down. You don't want more people going to jail. Is there anything that you really want to happen? Like other than people not going to jail or things to cool down? Like what's something that you're maybe looking forward to happening? To give you an example, I'm looking forward to the sharding because if ETH can pull that
Yeah.
off, I think things are going to be different for the quote ETH killer community.
That,
But other
I,
than that, I'm not,
I was gonna say the same thing. That's the next major thing on the horizon for the community. That's like planned. Anything else that happens between now and then, like it's just gonna be a surprise. But hopefully we can figure out sharding and it can sort of get implemented into the community a bit more deeper.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes. And then what I'm trying to do is study in 2023, make partnerships with more than blockchain, hopefully make more partnerships with not crypto bros. And with Mercy Corps, hopefully drive people to donate some crypto to help good causes around the world. And I'm also going to be taking time in 2023 to really start learning. And I got this book. I'll shout this book out. I haven't even started, but it's called Mastering Bitcoin. It's kind of more of a technical look at Bitcoin. I've looked
It
at the
does look like
societal
it
look.
looks like an IT book. Looks like
It
a
is.
textbook.
It's a total IT book.
Okay.
And it like breaks down. Like, let me find something that's going to be like IT-ish. Yeah, here you go. Right, transactions.
Oh, it's like a coding book? Is that what
Yeah,
it is?
it's going to
Oh,
get right down into the Bitcoin code, and I really want to understand it because as someone who's going to make that a larger part of my portfolio, it's time that I like understand. So this is talking about like the keys and the private keys and all
yeah.
that stuff. So this was recommended highly by Chamath Palihapitiya and another guy he creates content with. And I was like, okay, these guys are billionaires and they're deep into crypto and they've been in crypto way longer than I have. So it's by Andreas M. Antonopoulos. It's called Mastering Bitcoin.
Yes. Go. You know what? That's crazy. That's crazy that you said that because I was
Yeah.
in my mind racking my brain trying to remember his name, Andreas Anthony, because he's one of the first people to ever put out like course material along coding for blockchain. So yeah,
Exactly.
100% that he's one of the greats. 100%. That's a great book. Okay, cool.
He's one of the greats. And Jay, if I finish it and you want to read it, I'll send it up to Toronto for sure if we meet up.
Thanks,
I'm
brother.
really just trying to learn. I feel like there's a lot of things I still don't understand technically, and I'd like to learn more. I get the societal implications. I see the first world, the real world, I should say, use cases for everything. I can see how they're going to be plugged in. I'm seeing some different angles, but I want to strengthen up my technical ability because I just think that it's not a bad thing, Victor says, you think 2023 Binance will fall or Coinbase? Ooh, so we talked about this in the last episode, I
Yeah.
think. I'm really worried about. Okay, I'll just tell you what I'm doing, Victor. I have cash on Binance that sits there for buys, but I'm taking it off. I'm just getting it all off Binance. The moves they've been making recently don't make me feel comfortable, and they're just yeah. So I'll just tell you, I'm taking money off Binance. I've taken almost all my crypto off Binance and Coinbase. I think Coinbase will last longer than Binance just because it's a
Yes.
smaller operation.
Yes.
And I think because they're public facing, they have to quarterly show the world this is what they have and this is what they don't have.
Right.
Binance still could be smoke and mirrors. 2023 play, not Crypto Bros branded cold storage devices. 110%. We should definitely work with Ledger to do that,
That's
but have
cool.
like really broy and not broy things
That's super
on
cool.
the Ledger devices. Victor,
Grant is where did we say we didn't figure it out? He's
I
either in
think he's in
Texas or like
Texas. I
South
think he had to
Carolina or
drive to
something.
Texas. I can
Yeah.
look at the chat, but I think he had to drive to Texas. So he's not here. And what does Victor say? 2020 will be privacy coin year, not financial advice. I think he's right. And he said
I
this in
think
the
so
last
too.
episode. And Victor,
Yeah.
I don't know if we shouted you out, but he was saying Monero.
Hmm.
Monero is also one of the only coins right now, too, if you're into mining, that is quasi close to good ROI, if anything. So
Oh.
I think Monero, and there was another one that I was buying back in 2017, but I think I let go of fairly quickly. That was all about privacy. I do think privacy is going to be front and center as regulation comes, and people want to continue to, move money around the world, right? Like the new Panama or the new Bahamas or the new Swiss, a bank account could be having a couple million on the low in Monero, in a
Mm.
ledger that the code for and no one else does. Like, show me what's more off grid than that. So, yeah, Jay, we're almost at time. Do you want to do some quick shout outs as we close out 2022?
Yeah, man. Shout out to you and Grant, man. I listened to that last episode, would you say 54? The one
Yeah,
when Grant talks about his portfolio and how it's distributed. That was a super cool conversation. I like that he went into the conversations that he was having with Melissa, and in how they were planning to use those funds, and then when the time came, he sort of talked through what was some of the apprehensions that they had, and then how they were able to move forward. But then that story about Niantic and Nintendo,
it's
that is like
crazy. It's crazy.
gold. If you're thinking about getting into investing for the first time, like, listen to Grant's story about Niantic and Nintendo and how he was able to make money off of that. That's exactly how you should invest.
Yeah, it is. And thanks for shouting that out. And I just shared that link as well. That's episode 54 from More Than Blockchain. I had Grant on and we were just looking at 2023 and investing, between real estate, stocks, and crypto, what you should do. And please check that out. I want to shout out you and Grant as well. We've now done this is episode 42, which is kind of crazy. We still never met. We're still going strong. And in the new year, I think we're going to bring some different things to content. We're excited to do that. We normally would be recording on this Saturday, but we're not because it's going to be New Year's Eve. So we'll see everyone on the following Tuesday, which will be in the new year, 2023. And as Victor says, Feliz Año, amazing year, guys. Congratulations. So thank you, everyone who's been with us. And we will see everyone in the new year. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Not Crypto Bros. And check out notcryptobros.xyz too as well if you want to check out our website. So thanks, everyone.
See you in 2023. Peace,
2023.
y'all.